Hey there, friends. Welcome back to the Better Than Before Breast Cancer podcast. I'm your host, Laura Lummer. We are in the final month of 2025. Can you believe it? This year flew by. And when it comes to the end of the year, I think it's been a very important part of my healing practice, actually. I don't think it's been, I know it has been. When it comes to the end of the year, reviewing what went well for me, what I want to leave behind, what I want to give more energy and intention to and bring forward into the next year, and being very intentional about what I want to create has been a huge part of healing for me. And I think the way that it's played a part in healing is in a couple of things. One, it helps me know I get to put the energy into creating the life I want to build. And when I put that energy and intention, living intentionally, living on purpose, deciding what I want life to look like, that doesn't just include, like a lot of people talk about manifestation and they talk about getting stuff and getting money, which nothing wrong with that. It's wonderful to attract abundance of every kind into your life. But we can't forget that being intentional also serves our relationships, our work, whatever work we choose to do in the world, and our health. And so we get to decide what we want that to look like. So it's become an annual thing for me to do a workshop about living with intention to help you understand how to review the year in a way that doesn't have judgment, but has a lot of curiosity and helps you learn and grow from whatever your year looked like, and helps you understand the power that you have to decide with intention about what you want to create going forward. And there are steps that have been proven to work that you take to make these things happen. And that's what I share in my workshop. So check out the links on this episode and you can sign up to come to my Living with Intention workshop for 2026. So to kick off December, I invited somebody very special, very inspirational, absolutely amazing person to come and join me on this podcast because she's created so many great things in her life. And I wanted to have a great conversation with her about what it means to manifest something. Like, how can we go through things that are as devastating as cancer diagnoses or living with stage 4 cancer and still think, I can build a great future? How does that happen? How do you rewire your brain in a way that mindset works for you and feels real and true for you? So I invited my friend, Hayley Dubin, a fellow metabolic terrain advocate and health coach, and the founder of Revive Wellness, to come and talk about this topic with me. Hayley is the host of the Cancer Liberation Project podcast, and you will love her podcast. I will also link to that in the show notes for this episode. If you haven't listened to it and started following that podcast, please do. You're going to love it. She speaks to some incredible people on that show. Hayley is also a 27-year ovarian cancer survivor. That's amazing. Her passion is to help people overcome the physical, mental, and emotional challenges that the cancer journey can bring. And her focus is with individuals that have completed treatment for cancer, as well as those who have a strong family history of cancer. So she helps her clients let go of the fear and take control of their health so that they can feel confident in their ability to heal. And that, my friends, takes a tremendous amount of neuroplasticity and rewiring the brain and applying tools of manifestation to get to believe that, to get to work on that. And it starts with belief, right? People think that healing starts with a meal plan. No, it starts with believing you can heal. People might think that creating a business that they love or attracting a relationship that's fulfilling and meaningful starts with some kind of a plan, some kind of a written to-do list. But it starts with the belief that it's possible. And when you don't believe it's possible and you tell yourself it's possible, then you also get to see what thoughts pop up in your head that are blocking you. And when you become aware of what's stopping you from living the life you want to live, that's amazing because it gives you so many great things to begin to work on. So before I talk all about manifestation, I'm going to invite you into a conversation with Hayley Dubin, and I'll let it do all the talking for me. Hello, Hayley, and welcome to the Better Than Before Breast Cancer podcast. Thanks so much for making the time to be here today.
Thank you for having me, Laura. I'm so looking forward to our conversation. I love talking to
I
you.
am too. Your story is so powerful. Your energy is so powerful. I love working with you. I love talking with you. I love listening to you. And so we're just going to start off there. I'd love for you to share. Of course, I did a little intro to you ahead of time, but I just want to hear from you. We're talking about today manifestation, the power of manifestation, but not just when it comes to one thing in life that people typically think about, which is money, but everything in life. And why, especially at this time of year, at any point in life, but especially at this time of year, why it's so important for us to wrap our mind around being intentional about how we want to move forward. So I want to hear
Mhm.
about your story from your perspective, and I want to hear your thoughts on that and some of the things that you've done in your life that have helped you be where you are today.
That's great. So it was actually 27 years ago that I found out I had a lump on my ovary. And you probably introduced my story, but just really quick, I'll make it quick. They told me they don't know if it's cancer, but I would need surgery to remove it.
Hmm.
And so, I was definitely nervous. I always had a positive attitude thinking, oh, it's not cancer.
Yeah.
There's no
And
way.
you were how
Even
old?
so, I was 29, just about
29.
to turn
Yeah.
30.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yes.
of course you would be like, it can't be cancer. I'm 29 years old.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And at the
Yep.
time, I was completely stressed out and doing all the wrong things. And so now looking back, it wasn't too surprising. But I just remember waking up in the recovery room to my husband's face staring at me as he said, "You have to survive."
Mm.
And so it was a really scary thing. It was stage 3C ovarian cancer.
Wow.
And yeah, so, I had two surgeries, chemotherapy. And when I was finished with everything, the doctor said, "You're going to be fine."
Hmm.
And that's great to hear from your doctor because you're like,
Sure.
oh, okay, then that's your mindset. I'm going to be fine.
Yeah.
Uh, but I had so many questions. How did I get this in the first place? What can
Hmm.
I do moving forward to never have
Hmm.
to go through what I went through before?
Yeah.
Because it was pretty strong chemo and it was pretty bad. I had to stay in the hospital for 5 days each time, each
Mm-hmm.
round. So, anyways, when you asked me about mindset, so many things came to mind because I think instead of living out of fear, I mean, fear can push you or motivate you to work on yourself. And
Sure.
I mean, I really took a microscope to my life and knew I had to make tons of changes.
Hmm.
So even though there was some fear there, I used it to motivate me instead of being paralyzed by it. So
Yeah.
that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Yeah. Well, and stage 3, did you say is 3C?
So it was 3C.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ovarian cancer has a really high recurrence rate,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. And
Yeah.
this was what year that you went through your chemotherapy?
So this was in 1998.
98, yeah, because I was thinking my brother went through chemo in 93, and same thing, was 5-day stays in the hospital and absolutely brutal, and for those of us who go through chemotherapy in this day and age, although it's still horrible and brutal, we are so fortunate to have so many pharmaceuticals to support and manage the side effects, because what you went through, I'm sure, was very similar to what my brother went through, and it was horrific. It was a nightmare. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
So how do you though, Hayley, when we, and I'm sure you have this too when you're coaching people, you talk to people and they say, okay, so I used fear to motivate me instead of staying stuck in fear, which is very, very common after a cancer diagnosis and treatment, being stuck in fear, not knowing how to move forward. But then I hear people say, "But how do you do that?" Right?
Yeah.
Because other people say to them, just change your thoughts, just think differently, just don't think like that. And you're like, what? What does that even mean? How do I not think like that when this is my brain? What are some of the things that you did? Like, how do you go from deciding to use fear as a motivation rather than getting stuck in it?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I mean, the first thing I did is do a gratitude journal. And people
Mm,
talk about that all the time, but I wrote 5 things I'm grateful for every day, and it completely changed my mindset. I mean, things were tough. Like I said, chemo was not easy. But what I would do is use it kind of as a journal to vent to, all
Mhm.
the things that happened that day that were kind of tough and I don't feel great and I don't have much energy. But my son did this, or it's so beautiful outside. And it just changes your perspective. It changes the neurons in your brain. So
Mhm.
that is just one thing I started off doing right away. And now to this day, I love to look back at it. It's just so much fun to see like what the kids were doing at the time. And then I continued it.
Yes.
Um, but, other things I love to learn. So I read so many self-help books, anything I can get my hands on. Um, some of them, you can heal your life,
Mhm.
with, Louise Hay. I'm like thinking, what's
You
her name
say,
again?
yeah,
Yes. I loved Bernie Siegel. I don't know if you've heard of
I
him.
have. Mhm.
Yes, yes. So he's so incredible. And he worked with so many cancer survivors and talked about mindset.
Yeah.
Um, so to me, when you take action, just if it's writing, if it's reading, something small, it doesn't have to be overwhelming because I know, gosh, from coaching people, people are looking all over the internet before they find me, before they find you, and they are like, "Oh my gosh, there are so many things I could be doing right now." And
Mhm.
it just that's when you become paralyzed.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. You said something that I think is really important that we expand on, which is like you wrote positive things. So you
Mhm.
started practicing gratitude. How is practicing gratitude and choosing to intentionally look at things that are going well in your life? How is it different than ignoring what's not going well or fooling yourself, right? Because a lot of people say, "Oh, well, so you're kidding yourself." Right? You're not looking at the whole picture, which isn't true, right? So I think really digging into what does it mean and how does that change your mind? How does it change your mindset when we start practicing gratitude? And you made another point, action is imperative, right? We can't just hope for it or wish for it or wait for it. So, how is journaling about gratitudes different from just choosing not to think about the stuff that's challenging? And why is action imperative?
Yeah, I mean, we're intelligent beings. Our bodies store emotions. So if you're just, not facing all these things that are happening, your body takes score, right? Your body, there's a book
Mhm.
like that.
Yep,
So
yep, Bessar van der
your
Kolk, the
body
body
keeps
keeps the score.
your
Yep,
body
yep.
keeps the score.
Right,
Exactly.
right.
So you're not doing your body any good. And you reminded me of one thing. You didn't say it, but people talk about toxic positivity. And you
Yes.
can't just be like, "Oh, everything's so wonderful," and not look at the things that are upsetting you because it's so
Right.
important to find a support person to talk to. And
Yes.
if you don't, maybe if you don't have a support person, like a friend that gets it,
Mhm,
I would definitely see a therapist or what whoever you feel like you could trust.
mhm.
But I think it's so important to let those emotions out. And gratitude, when you're grateful, you just have more to be grateful for. I mean,
Mhm.
and I'm sure you have seen that as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's an important distinguish or to distinguish this because a lot of times, and I'm sure you've heard this too, a client will come and they're in really emotional turmoil. They're really sad. They're grieving. They're traumatized. They've got a lot going on. And they'll start to tell their story and say, but I should just be grateful because I'm alive. Right.
Yes.
Hmm. And this is speaking to exactly what you're talking about, right? Is we can be grateful and traumatized at the same time and be
So
able to
true.
hold space to process that trauma while we intentionally put energy into remembering that's not everything in life, right? That there's other good things.
Mm. Such a good point, such a good point. I mean, I was grieving the fact that I could no longer bear children,
Hmm.
and, thank goodness I had 1 at the time,
Hmm.
and all my family and friends were saying, "Well, look, at least you have 1." But that didn't discount the fact that I was sad that I wasn't gonna have more,
Yeah.
So it's just an example of still acknowledging like this is hard,
Yes.
but I don't have to stay stuck in it. I could be proactive. And we ended up adopting a second child, which was
Aw,
just so, so incredible.
that's awesome. Yeah. But I love it. I think it's just so important we talk about that. I think so much of the time, I'll hear people talk about going through a cancer experience, and either the focus is very much on how much it sucked and how hard it is and what it took away from life. Or the focus is like, let's just move on. Let's just leave it behind. Right. Where I think about it, and you and I are trained in this, the integrative approach to life and wellness and healing. Right. So just like when we're going through treatment, the integrative approach is, yeah, we'll take these medications if we believe that they'll extend our life. And they have most of the time horrendous side effects. So we get to look for these other things to be supportive, right? And I think that's how emotions run too, right? Some are really hard and uncomfortable, but they exist at the same time as something else, and we can be integrated. We don't have to pick one side.
That's such a good point. That's such a good
Yeah.
point because you're right. Sometimes people think, okay, I just have to go natural. I don't want anything in my body that could, do
Hmm.
something bad.
Yeah.
And, again, that takes mindset. These things can help you, but you could
Hmm.
also do these more natural things that can help with side effects.
Hmm.
So, yeah, it's a great way of looking at it.
Yeah. So I wore my abundance sweatshirt today
Love it.
because what this means to me, right? Abundance. When I think about abundance, I again think that people were programmed because this language is used most of the time when it comes to money, right? Manifestation and abundance, we think about money, which is great. No, nothing wrong with that. But why don't we take those concepts and apply them to relationships, our health, right? Our self-love, our self-care. And I think what you just talked about, a gratitude practice is a step towards that creating an abundant life. But
Mhm.
it's so interesting how we kind of silo life into here's work. And a lot of people have a great mindset when it comes to work and what they want to accomplish. But then we
Mhm.
come to health, life, relationships, and we're just like, let me see what happens. Right.
Right, that's so
Yeah.
true.
So I wonder if you think about the words abundance and manifesting or manifestation,
Mhm.
what do they mean to you? And how do we expand our view of them so it's not only focused on finance?
Right, that's such a great question. I mean, abundance to me, I would say when you live with integrity to your true authentic self, y that's abundance.
Yeah.
I feel like when I was younger, and you might agree with this too, and I know so many young people, they're just driven by money, their career,
Yeah.
and they're not looking at what they really want. Do they enjoy what they're doing?
Mhm.
Is it fulfilling to them? Do they feel purposeful?
Mhm.
So that was a big thing for me that I learned that I wasn't living my true authentic self. I wasn't being true to myself. I was worried about what other people wanted, what other people
Mhm.
thought.
Yeah.
So I think, manifestation and abundance that can work for anything. I mean, like you said, relationships, career. Something else I think about is staying curious and
Mhm.
always trying to learn new things and be surrounded by people who are similar. Not similar to you. They don't have to be exactly similar, but want the same things as you or want to be better, you know?
Mhm.
And then often being with people that are better than you or that you think are better than you, that are
Yeah.
maybe more successful than you in maybe a relationship, or
Yeah.
it could be
Yeah.
anything, health. And you
Yeah.
can look up to them and they can mentor you, you know?
Absolutely. I think this is such an important point to make because what does manifestation mean? It means you have the power to create a life you love or anything, right? You have power over something. You're manifesting it, you're creating it. It seems like so many people look at it as this woo woo magical word. I love the work of Dr. Tara Swartz and her book, The
Mhm.
Source, where she connects neuroscience and the way your brain works to the laws of manifestation, says, hey, this is actually science backed. Like our thoughts are that powerful. the work of Bruce Lipton, The Biology of Belief, right? Our thoughts
Yeah.
are that powerful at a cellular level. They literally change us,
Mm,
right? So
for
it's
sure.
so important. And I wonder what your thoughts are on this. Do you think when you're working with clients that it is more common that they have no idea what they actually want versus just being in what they're worried about, right? There's no clarity on what they want. So how do you start to create what you don't even know you want, right?
Oh, that is so, so true. Yes.
Mhm.
The majority of people I work with have no idea what they want. They
Mhm.
just are stuck, like you said, in what they don't want, in fear, and I don't wanna be worried about cancer for the rest of my life.
Mhm.
So, I
Yeah.
do think you become healthier when you, again, try to be purposeful. What are you passionate about? What are you good at? What, you know, what lifts you up and makes you excited?
Mhm. Yeah. And I love because you talked about curiosity, and I like to say, like, our language is so powerful. And you just made a great statement, which we hear all the time. I don't want to get cancer again, or I don't want to die from cancer. When we have thoughts like that, we think that's kind of a solution oriented thought, right? Oh, I don't want to get cancer again. But what it really is a fear based thought that's focusing on cancer, right? Where if we want to manifest a cancer free life, we could take that thought and switch it and be like, I'm a person who lives in a healthy cancer free body,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
Now it's a whole different energy.
Mm,
And what you said, I think, is such a great, simple thing to do that so many people don't realize, which is you read self help books. You listened to people who healed and worked with people who healed, and you learned what did they do to heal and be healthy
yes.
versus what do we normally see? Putting all your energy into researching how many people died from the same cancer you have, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very different energy. And one thing, it's important to be informed to make an informed decision. But if healing and healthy life and healthy relationships and fulfilling work is what you want, we got to start getting clear on that.
Mm.
Do you think that the gratitude practice is a step towards that clarity?
Oh, I completely think so. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and it's such an easy thing to do. I mean, 3 to 5 things you're grateful for every
Yeah.
day. It could be
Yeah.
small, it could be big, whatever you want, and I mean, get a journal. Don't I wouldn't even put it on your computer. I would get
Yeah.
an actual journal and write it down. I know it's old-fashioned,
Yeah.
but
Well, but it's important for the brain, right? We have to remember that in today's world of technology, we still have a human brain, which is an organ that works a certain way. And it is a completely different practice when we write something and show the brain what we want to create, right?
Mm,
I'm sitting here like this is always next to me. It's not far. This is my brand new one for 2026, my
love it.
planner. It's my best friend. I write it all the time. It's got notes and journaling areas, right? And when we write those things we're grateful for, I think it helps to move towards that clarity of I want more of this in my life,
Mm,
right?
no doubt. No,
Yeah.
and don't be afraid to dream big. I mean, we all are so, we feel like we don't deserve the best, but
Yes.
we do because we were born, we deserve everything, and we can make that happen, and even, I think about healing and the cancer journey. Not everyone heals physically, but
Hmm.
you can heal mentally, emotionally. You can repair relationships, so
Yeah.
there's so much healing that can be done.
Absolutely. Yeah. And this is, I think, an important point. It can be confusing for people. So we talk about manifestation and say, okay, let's get clear on the future version of your life. What do you
Mhm.
want your health to look like? How do you want your body to feel? What do you want your relationships to feel like, right? Well, how much money do you want to make in your life? What kind of work do you want to do? And then we say, now let go of the outcome. Right? So it's kinda like when I took golf lessons before, which did not work out well for me, but I took golf lessons and they're like, "Stand here, move your hips, do this, do that, now relax." And you're like, "What? How can I relax? I'm doing all this." How
Uh,
do we get clear on what we want, but then let go of the attachment to the outcome.
Right. I mean, that takes practice. There is
Hmm.
no doubt. It does take practice. And, I think, like you're saying, I mean, spirituality is so important
Yeah.
to look at a higher power. I know not everyone believes in God, but whatever it is for you, if it's nature, you
Yeah.
know, just I sometimes say, "This is too big for me to handle. Can
Mm-hmm.
you take it over for me? It's just too much."
Hmm.
And it helps you relax. It helps calm your nervous system.
Yeah. I think of manifestations, we talk about action. You got to take action. You can
Mm,
sit here and wish all day long, but it's the action that you take that puts that energy into the universe that says, this is what I'm trying to attract. This is what I'm trying to create. Right.
yes.
And let's say when it comes to healing and health, some people, okay, we're going to come up on the beginning of the year soon. And, 60% of the population is going to say, I want to lose 20 pounds, right? Or something like that, right?
Right.
And so then the 20 pounds becomes the goal. And they step on the scale every day. And if the scale doesn't shift within 2 weeks, they've given up. They're frustrated, right? But I think a great question when it comes to manifestation is, who do I have to become, right? To have that in my life. And I wonder, like, when you are going through your own healing journey, I know for me, I write my gratitudes every morning, but I also write when I'm focusing my intention on manifesting, right? And
Mm,
one of those is I am a person who has no evidence of disease.
mm,
So then the question that follows, because I think this is the powerful thing in journaling, when you write what you want, your brain will immediately tell you why you can't have it, right? And then you see that thought and you're like, okay, that's the thought I have to work on. When I initially started writing that, my brain was like, "You that's not possible. You can't have that. You have widespread stage 4 disease. Everyone tells you you can't heal." Right?
mm,
All the language we hear, it's incurable. It's incurable. And
yeah.
so you've got to do the work to decide, am I going to believe this or not? You know? So to let go of the outcome, I think instead of focusing on the do I have no evidence of disease is who is the person I have to become to get
Mm,
there? What does a person who has no evidence of disease choose every day, right?
yes.
Yeah.
And I
Like,
think a big thing is harmony,
mm,
harmony in your life. I mean,
mhm.
that's huge in every aspect,
Yeah.
not fighting, not resisting.
Yeah. And I love that. I love because resistance, I don't even think that most of the time we understand what resistance is because a
Right.
lot of people, right, think it's just logic. I want
Mm,
this, but that's not possible because this is how things work. And they don't realize the brain is resisting trying to get there. So here you are, a 30-year-old with an advanced diagnosis, advanced stage of a really serious internal cancer. You're in fear. You decide, I want to use this fear as motivation. Well, to me, that says you see changes you want to make. Well, what's the first thing
mm.
that comes up when we decide to make change? More fear,
Here. Yeah.
right? Yeah. How do we make that change? What will life look like if I change that? How did you deal with that? What are some tips you have for people who are like, as soon I see this change and I talk myself right out of it because it's so scary to think of, I don't know what life will look like if I make that change.
Mm, such a good question. I I would say just do it. I mean, I know that's a Nike slogan, but even, Mel Robbins talks about 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, do it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because when you're in action, you feel so much better. You feel like you're in control. And I know with cancer, so much of the time you feel like you're out of control.
So much.
I know I felt like my body failed me, and I'm sure you did as well, and other people that
Mhm.
are listening.
Mhm.
So, I know we mentioned about taking action before, but it's the most I know it's not simple. And, I think, like, you only fail if you don't try. I
Yeah,
mean, so what do you have to lose? I mean, you only have things to gain.
exactly.
I made such good friends, by reaching out to people, a community of other survivors who understood what I was going through. And, you know, I don't know. I can't say enough of just get out of the fear. I know it's it's easier said than done, but take small baby steps. It
Yeah.
doesn't take anything huge. just something little.
Mhm.
Today I'm gonna go on a video and do some weightlifting, really
Mhm.
light, depending on what you're going
Yeah.
through right now. But just something to take action. And
Yeah.
it does not have to be huge at all.
And I think this is such a great point because you said something a few minutes ago. It's like dream big, right? So I get a stage 4 cancer diagnosis. You get a stage 3C cancer diagnosis, and we say, "Oh, I'm going to heal." That's a
Yeah.
pretty big flipping dream,
Yeah.
right? It really is. Most people would not say that. And in fact, I'm sure you see this all the time. I get clients that come to me all the time and say, "Oh, this is my stage of diagnosis. There's nothing they can do about it. This is my stage of diagnosis. It's incurable." And every time I hear that, my insides just like cringe a little bit. 'Cause I'm like, oh, I want you to not tell yourself this is incurable, right?
Mm,
So if we dream really big, what's wrong with that? Right? But
exactly.
the problem is sometimes if we're dreaming really big, we tell ourselves we have to go from right here, where this is what I want, really big dream, to I'm like 500,000 miles away from really big dream. And I think I should be there tomorrow. Right. So what you said is so important. What's the next thing? If you write on your manifestation, I in 2026 have the healthiest body I've ever had in my life. Right.
Mhm.
If you write that down and then you go out somewhere and your friends have a table full of croissants and cakes and cupcakes. What that does is it allows you to say, if I choose this for me right now, is it moving me closer to the healthiest version of myself that I've decided to become? Right.
Mm, yes.
And so I think what you said it's not simple. I think it is simple. I think it's so simple. People underestimate the power of simplicity, but simple and easy is not the same thing.
Exactly.
Right. So it's simple, but it's hard at the same time.
And
Right.
our mind gets in the way. That's the part that's makes it not
Absolutely.
as easy, I
Right.
guess
I
you
mean,
can
I
say,
could come
but
up
it is
with a
simple.
litany of ideas. It's like if you think, well, one of those won't, that's not going to get me to the healthiest version of myself. And the next thought would be, but one won't hurt. And I can get back on track tomorrow. Right. The mind will
Yeah.
just start throwing out all kinds of reasons why you should get the dopamine hit right now.
So true, so true. And, I also think, I have a group of friends who are all into health,
Mhm.
and we go hiking together and do fun things together, and we talk about healthy eating and what we're doing on the weekend, and, so and I'm not saying don't be with your other friends that,
Sure.
that might drink or eat something
Yeah.
you don't wanna eat, but it's great to spend time with those people too that just are on the same journey as you. I mean, doesn't have to be
Exactly.
cancer, but just that are looking to improve themselves, to fuel
Absolutely.
their bodies and
Yeah.
yeah, really think about their
Everything is a
lives.
different energy, right? And
Yes.
and again, I think going back to paying attention to your language, if you hear yourself saying, "I feel so drained when I hang out with that person,"
Mm,
or, "Oh my god, I feel so inspired when I'm hanging out with that group of people." Pay attention to that because it's significant, right? And again, when we go back to abundance, manifestation, and finances, if you're in business or you're at a job and you're trying to be successful or climb the ladder or whatever it is you're trying to do with money, what do? We hang around with people who've been successful at making money, investing money, planning for retirement, whatever, whatever. Why wouldn't we choose that exact same thing for people who are in healthy relationships? What do you do? What's your secret? How do you handle certain things? Healthy lifestyle. What do you do? Someone the other day was telling me about some kind of not professional coaching, but guidance they were getting from another person in their life about their relationship. And when they started to share with me about this other person in their life, this other person is in a relationship where they are literally verbally abused on a regular basis, right? And as this person was talking to me and saying, "Oh yeah, when I went over their house, this was what was going on at their house." And I said, "And this is the person that you're getting relationship counseling from? This is a person who's allowing someone to verbally abuse them and helping you?" So we really have to think about that. It's like if I want to manifest the healthiest relationships, I've got to expose myself to people with healthy relationships, right?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And you just made me think, listen to your gut. And I know so many people have trouble listening to their gut. They
Mhm.
don't know what that means. But I always think, like, if it feels expansive, if being
Right.
around that person feels expansive, then do it. If you feel restrictive, your body is telling you something like,
Mhm.
no, this is not a good thing for me.
Mhm. So true. We've got to make best friends with our body. And you said something that I think is a very common belief after a cancer diagnosis. My body betrayed me,
Yes.
right? My body let me down. And this is something we have to give so much attention to if we want to create a life we love. What's your body telling you? And like you said too, Haley, and like I could say, before my first diagnosis, you said, I was doing all the wrong things. So who betrayed who, right? It's like, did our body betray us, or has our body saying, "Oh, I have gas, I have bloating, I have constipation, I am stressed." We look back and say, "Oh, that job was killing me a little bit every day." We have this language again. We're not listening to ourselves or giving credit to what our body is signaling to us and
Mm,
telling us, right? So,
so true.
yeah, when we want to create that life we want, in addition to your advice, take baby steps, is also acknowledge baby successes, right?
Great
Like,
point.
yeah, I did this one because a lot of times they'll say, I didn't get there, right? I'm trying to do this. And I'll hear people say, I'm not there yet, but I'm trying, but I'm just not there. And it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Let's just reframe and say, I'm in the process. And then let's say, and here's all the great things I did. Last week, instead of having 12 Pepsis, I had 8. That's a success, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Last week, instead of lifting 3 times a week and running 10 miles a day, I walked for 10 minutes a day. Fantastic. Success,
Absolutely.
right? And the first steps to manifesting a happy, healthy, active lifestyle.
No doubt. No doubt.
Yeah.
Yes. And, I just am thinking of one other thing because I interviewed someone on the podcast who had stage 4 pancreatic cancer. His name was
Oh,
Andy Campbell, and he was
uh-huh.
such an inspiration. I mean, it was quite a story. I mean, he was bullied as a kid. Um, his son committed suicide. I mean,
Oh,
horrible things.
gosh.
And he again, his mindset, I mean, he was moving forward in a way that no one can imagine with that kind of loss and that kind of health issue.
Mhm.
And, I know I mentioned curiosity before, but that was one of his biggest principles to stay curious. And if your doctor, you're worried about your health, if your doctor is not curious, is only doing standard protocol and not trying anything else, or, oh, I studied this, I saw this, then maybe it's time to find a new doctor,
Yeah,
even if it's a primary care. I mean, they can be in your corner. So
absolutely.
I just wanted to mention that because he was so it just he had such an impression on me. I mean, I interview so many amazing people
Yeah, you
that are
do.
just incredible, but I just had to share
That
that.
stands out. Okay, we'll have to link to that episode in the show notes for this so people can go and
Sure.
listen to that. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be great.
And you make a point. So again, when we think about manifesting, it means what do you want to create in your life? And if you are in a situation where you're going through treatment or you're looking for support from standard of care, and I've seen this happen with naturopathic physicians as well. If
Mhm.
you're creating a support team, if you're like, this is the team of experts and professionals I want in my corner, and they're not doing what you need them to do. I just had a message this week from someone on Instagram who messaged me because she had seen a podcast or she had listened to a podcast where I was talking about something. She had a question about it and she said, I'm interested in this, but I'm afraid to ask my oncologist because if you question her, she gets mad and yells at me.
Ah,
And I'm like, well, it's time to fire oncologists, right?
that's
And
for sure.
yeah. And so we have to think about what do we want to create on every conceivable level? Like in my medical care, I want a compassionate, supportive team,
Mm.
right? You get to create that. You get to interview doctors. You get to ask questions. You get to get referrals. You get to say, here's where I stand. And are you okay with that? Like my doctor doesn't agree with a lot of the choices I make, but we have an agreement that I'll be honest with him so that he doesn't do anything that harms me. with, the standard of care medication he's doing. So he understands what I'm doing so that we can bring this together because he knows I'm going to do what I'm going to do. Right. But I
Right.
want him to be on my team. I don't need him to believe in my choices, but I need him to be knowledgeable about the choices I'm making. Right.
Yes. Makes
And
so much
so
sense.
that's what's important. And I've seen people choose naturopathic doctors and come to me in tears because the naturopathic doctor is so staunch about zero room for any change, right? Zero room
Mhm.
for deviation. You had a bite of cake? What are you talking about? Right? And so then they're in tears. I'm like, okay, maybe this isn't the person you should be working with, right?
Right.
So again, thinking about what do you want to create on every conceivable level in your life? And
That
how do you
is
start to get there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's such a good point, and just what you're saying, you're right, because people think that their doctor is in this white coat and they know everything, but you have such good intuition. You know your body. You know when something doesn't feel right. So get those
Yes.
second opinions. If someone is not treating you how you want to be treated, if they're rushing you out of the office, go look for
Yes.
someone else.
Yes. Ah, love that. And so many people just truly do not believe they have the power to do that. Especially they'll say, well, it's my insurance. That's the doctor my insurance sent me to. There are other doctors, right? There are ways around this. You deserve that support.
Mm,
And
yes.
I think when we don't get it too, it drives. So if we, in my philosophy, healing, foundation, self love, self compassion. Number one, you got to learn to love yourself because if you do not love yourself, you will tolerate bullshit that will not serve you. And
Yep.
one of those things is a doctor who doesn't support you or shames you or God forbid yells at you. Are you kidding me right now? Yeah. No. If you love yourself, like you've said already so many times, Haley, you deserve the best things. You
Yes.
deserve all good things. You deserve gentle support. You deserve guidance. You deserve this. But if you hear us saying that here on this show and your first thought is, I don't, or maybe I don't deserve all of it, or I'm not worthy, or it's not possible for me, those are the thoughts that need work on right now
Mm,
because those are the foundations. When you deserve that, like I cannot imagine if I saw a doctor and they raised their voice at me, I'm out the door before they even finish the sentence. Like there's no way in the world I would tolerate someone speaking to me like that, right?
right.
Let alone think about this poor woman. I'm so glad she reached out because here she's her body, like you said, her intuition is saying, I think I need that. What you were talking about makes sense with what I'm going through, but I'm afraid to ask because I'll get yelled at because that's
Right.
been my experience, right? Yeah. I mean, we have to think about what that means if we're, again, like you said, authentic to ourselves. We've got to be
Exactly.
our best friend and our own advocate, right?
Right, because she's not respecting herself. She's just worried
Yes.
about what the doctor is saying. And I know, again, it's a lot of people have to work on that.
Mm-hmm.
But look, if you're listening to this and you're going through cancer, you deserve to heal every aspect of yourself and your body, and just again, little steps to be positive and to um you know, like I'm thinking of self-compassion, maybe taking a bath or like these little things you could do to show yourself love.
Mm-hmm.
It again is a practice and it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
always come natural to people because especially women, we're such caretakers. We're always looking to take care of others. So just these little things you can do to take care of yourself,
Yeah.
even talking on the phone with a friend that gets you, just for 10 minutes, if you only have 10 minutes. But
Yes.
those little things you could do to show yourself compassion and love.
Yeah. And you're so right that women have such a hard time allowing themselves to receive. Right?
Yes.
That's another word. So when people talk about healing, this just comes to mind as we're talking about this, right? So we think of health. What do we think of? Exercise and food, right? Nutrition and exercise. This is what we do. And then when I say, oh my God, there's so much more in people, and even me, and you too, before you started studying with MTIH and we started learning the metabolic approach and being mentored by Dr. Nasha Winters is like, holy cow, there's so many layers to this. And when
Right.
people say, what are the layers? These are the layers. Self-love, being authentic, listening to your body and your intuition and not questioning it, right? No matter what our gut tells us, saying, "Oh, God, my gut, I've got a really strong feeling here." And I think even research and reading and listening to people speak of the power of intuition, because
Yeah,
we'll kind of dismiss it so easily as woo woo, but it is one of the healing factors in radical remission, right? Strengthening the belief in your intuition. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. There's this really cool book. It's old. I don't know. It's at least 10, 15 years old now. It's called The Gift of Fear.
Hmm.
And it's written by this guy who's a security expert for like royalty and politicians and super wealthy people. The book is so fascinating because he says every other animal pays attention to their intuition. If a deer feels fear, they run. If an animal feels fear, they're out of there. But when human women feel fear, they judge themselves. They question themselves. They worry about what other people will think if they speak up or if they walk away. We don't trust our own intuition. And in that book, it's a little triggering because it relates some really physically terrifying, frightening things that have happened to women who
Oh,
then came to this guy for protection and share their story about, my gut was telling me no, but I didn't want him to think I was a bitch. I
mm,
didn't want him to think I was rude, right? And so I think that's just such a powerful thing again for us. This is another layer of healing. Look at, are we living by other people's thoughts?
yes, and expectations.
Because we can't manifest what we want in our life if we don't know what we want. We already said that, if we're not clear. If we think we have to want what other people want us to want or want us to believe, how the
Exactly.
hell? We're never going to figure that out.
You got it.
So powerful.
It
Yeah.
really is, it
Yeah.
really is.
So I wonder if you could leave anybody with a tip and say, listen, if you want to create your best life, start here. What would that be? Even if it's
Mhm.
one thing you already said, what do you think would be start here?
I mean, I would say never give up, stay persistent, even if you didn't see success yet. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean you're not gonna see it. Keep
Yeah.
searching and keep being curious.
Yeah. Love that. The only way to fail is to just stop,
Exactly.
right? Yeah. And I think even when it comes to healing, I remember hearing Naisha say this one time in our community. Someone in our community had passed away, and she was addressing that. And she was saying how oftentimes people who are following the metabolic approach or an integrative approach or working on healing, and as you said, healing doesn't always mean a cure,
Yeah.
right? Healing has many different facets. And she said, we don't look at this person and think of this person as a failure. And especially because this person lived 17 years beyond
Mm,
what the original prognosis was. Talk about success, right? So we have
I
to think
agree.
about the journey. We have to think about who we become and staying consistent and keep showing up for yourself with curiosity and with compassion is everything when it comes to creating a life you love. Like, it's not linear,
No.
right? Yeah. There's ups and downs and back and forth. And if we beat ourselves up, and I like to say, like, curiosity is the antidote for self judgment, because you cannot be in judgment if you're curious, right? You can be like, wow,
Yeah,
that was a interesting thought I just had about myself. Wonder why I thought that. That's interesting. Versus, oh my God, I'm crazy. Oh my God, I'm so stupid. Oh my God, I'm a hot mess, right? Yeah. Yeah.
exactly, exactly.
I love that. I think it's great advice. So, some
Mhm.
tips people can take with them: start writing your gratitudes. And if your brain says, that's nothing, I hear that all the time, try it. Have you tried it? Right?
Right, right, and,
Yeah.
well, like we talked about before, write down what you want, because if you don't really think about it and write it down, it's going to be hard to manifest it. So
Yeah.
write all those things that you want in your life. How do you want to live? How do you, is it important for you to play with your grandchildren someday? What are
Yeah.
all those things you want in your life?
So true. And if there's not clarity, if you don't know what you want, ask yourself, how do I want to feel? Let's start there.
Mm,
I want to feel at peace. I want to feel calm. I want to feel loved, right? If you start there, then you can say, well, what things make me feel peaceful? What can I
yeah.
do? Right. And little by little, as you take those steps, you develop clarity. And then one day, love this saying, it's like, you never know how you're going to get where you want to be until you get there and you look back and you go, oh, so that's how I did it. That's how it happens. Right. And that's the truth. You just keep showing up.
Exactly. We might
Yeah.
not know the way, but if we know what we want, we'll be led the way.
Yeah. How many podcast episodes have you done now at this point?
So at this point, 118. So I
100.
publish it every other week now just because I couldn't keep up. So it's,
Yeah.
yeah.
And when you started off and decided, I want to do a podcast, did you ever think, how will I get to 118 episodes? Right?
Oh, exactly. I just
Mhm.
thought I think it would be great to do a podcast
Yeah.
and on integrative cancer recovery and all
Yeah.
that. And I thought, okay, I'm going to try it. And I went online and found someone that can help me do it. It just, those baby steps. And
Yeah.
I listened to videos and just tried
Yeah.
it, you
Yeah.
know? And
And you
and
kept
I am
showing up.
no different than I mean, I used to live in fear. I'm just, I'm saying like I came from a family who had such anxiety and lived in fear, and I had to push through that for myself. I mean,
Mhm.
I could stay home every day and do nothing, like
Yeah.
easily,
Yeah.
but it is about pushing yourself. And
Mhm.
I always think when you get out of your comfort zone, amazing things happen. It never ever fails. Do you
Yeah,
agree?
absolutely. Absolutely. Growth never comes from comfort. I wish it did. You know how many times I walk by a bakery and I say, God, I wish I could heal eating a croissant every day. God, I wish I could heal having an espresso martini every night. Wouldn't that be lovely? Right? Yeah. But it is that growth doesn't come from that. We don't manifest the things that are great for us and supportive of us with a beautiful energy from our comfort zone. It just doesn't
Mm.
happen. Mm-mm.
It's so true. And, you're
Yeah.
just making me think. I just saw a quote on Instagram and it said, "Don't shrink to be loved, grow and see who stays." And I
Wow.
love that. I love that it was from
Yeah.
Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx. So I just find her
Oh,
amazing.
I
But
love it.
yeah.
Yeah, she is amazing. I love that. And we're going to link to your podcast because I want people to listen. Your stories of inspiration, I think, are part of the pathway to manifesting the life you want and to getting out of fear, right? To hearing from people who've been through so much and
Mm,
understanding that it is a conscious and intentional choice. Right? It's not like here's 118 people who are somehow superhuman that beamed up from another planet, right? They're humans and we're humans. And if some humans can do it, we can do it too, right?
exactly.
I love that.
Exactly.
And that's why I love being around people who have what more, right? Like if I want to build a certain business, I want to be around people who 10x to that. Right? I wanna be
Exactly.
around their energy. I wanna hear what they did. I was this weekend with someone, and she's an assistant for a very successful coach, and that coach is very successful financially. She's got a lot of clients. Her business is much bigger than mine, and as she started telling me everything they do, I said, "Yeah, I don't wanna work that hard." Right?
Right.
And I was like, "I love the tips for certain things you guys do, but I have no aspiration to work 18 hours a day. I have no aspiration to work from 6 AM to 8 PM every night," right?
Right.
So, knowing what you want is one thing. Being around people who have more is another thing because it can give you great ideas to get where you wanna be, but it doesn't mean you have to be where they are as well. right?
Such a good point. Such a good
Mhm.
point, because you could put way too much pressure on yourself. Yeah, and then
Way too
in
much.
fear again.
Yeah. I'm like, "Oh, dang, I see clients 3 days a week. I don't start till 10, 4 o'clock. I'm making dinner."
Right,
It's
it's
like
like great. It's
yeah,
balance and it's
exactly.
harmony, right?
Exactly. It's like I have one priority, and it is to support the healing of this body, and exhaustion doesn't fit that. So I'm not gonna manifest that healing if I don't do the things that support it, right?
For
Yeah.
sure.
Well, I hope this has helped people get a little bit of a shift. I think that that shift in perspective of what does it mean to manifest? What does it mean to have abundance? And how do you use your mind? Like, what are technically steps that you can do to change your thoughts? And I hope that they picked up some great tips and will link to your podcast and especially to the episode that you spoke of so we can get
Yeah,
even more
wonderful.
inspiration out there. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, thank
Absolutely. It
you
was
so
so
much.
great.
I could talk to you forever, Haley, I
Oh,
know.
same.
It's gonna be an Andrew Huberman podcast if we don't cut it off soon, we'll go on for hours.
Exactly.
All right, well, it's
Thanks
great
so
to see you.
much.
Thank you for being here.